Today we end our series, The Legacy of Love, with a sermon entitled, What Will We Be? And we turn to Scripture from 1 John, chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. You see that on the front of your Grade Study Guide. I invite you to join me as we hear now these words. See what love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know Him. Beloved, we are God's children now. What we will be has not yet been revealed. What we do know is this. When He is revealed, we will be like Him, for we will see Him as He is. And all who have this hope in Him purify themselves just as He is pure. This is the Word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Well, I think as we've made abundantly clear already, if you weren't here on Halloween night this past Wednesday, you missed a fantastic event, a wonderful, fun evening. There were clowns making balloon animals, and a lion tamer and his big cat, a tightrope walker, a trapeze artist, a mime, a magical I'm going to drink some water and start over. A magician was in the tent, and we even had a bearded lady under the big top, and so much more. And I got the joy of playing the part of the ringmaster of this fantastic circus that we held. You know, there's a lot of fun on Halloween. Of course, candy kind of takes center stage, and why would it not? Everybody loved the candy, but at our circus, we each had some kind of engaging event. Boxley and Linda had a balance beam that Boxley made so that kids could walk across it like a tightrope walk act. And at my trunk, because I was the ringmaster, we played ring toss. Ha ha ha, yuck, yuck, yuck. It is a circus after all. But you know what? Of all the things that happen on Halloween at Trick or Treat, the favorite part for me is the costumes. It's probably not too hard to guess that that's my favorite part. There were princesses here, and goblins, and ghosts, and there were scientists, and Harry Potter characters. There were superheroes, and even an alien from outer space. And the best part? I got to wear a costume too. See, Halloween is not just for the little kids, it's for the big kids too. And you know I love a good costume. I love to put on a costume. Not only just trying on the clothing of another character, but I like trying on a different persona than mine. There's a certain freedom in the fantasy of becoming someone else. I can choose who I want to be. I mean, that's what kids say when they're leading up to Halloween. What are you going to be? I'm going to be this. What are you going to be? And so you get to kind of choose what it is that you want to be. And sometimes when you try on that persona, you get to act in ways that you might not normally act. Last year I was the Queen of Hearts, and the kids had to play a card game at my trunk, and if they lost, I got to say, "Off with your heads!" which is not usually what a minister says to children. This year I was a little more back to normal as the ringmaster, welcoming people and getting them excited about what was coming up at our circus. But I noticed that the kids played their ring toss game at my trunk in character. I don't know that they really intended to, but it just kind of happened that way. The goblins kind of threw their rings at the bottles with force. The princesses stepped up to the box and kind of dropped them gingerly onto the bottles. They got the most rings because they knew what to do. They knew, go stand right on it and drop it in. The alien threw his practically into outer space. It went over my car. We're still looking for it. It might be over at Discovery. He's a picture. Yeah, he's a picture. See? So it was interesting to note that Because most of the time, it doesn't feel like we have maybe much of a choice in the matter. Our social systems, they indoctrinate us into what we should be. So many of us began very early on in life wearing certain kinds of masks and taking on personas like the tough guy or the dumb bunny. Went to college with a girl named Jennifer. She was so smart. I went to a small college and they only gave out one President's Scholarship. And she was the recipient of the President's Scholarship. And she had been taught through societal systems that no one would want to date her if they thought she was that smart. And so she learned to play dumb. And that's what she did all through college, hiding who she really was. For some of us, we learn to take on the expectations of our family systems or our parents. I have a friend that I grew up in church with named Paul, and he wanted so badly to be a journalist. Even at a young age, he wrote a journal every single day, and he was so observant about what was happening in the world around him. But when it came time to go to college and he told his father, I want to be a journalist, his father said no. That's not a respectable job. You will go into business or I won't pay for your college. And so he did that. And it led him down a path of destruction for many years before he was finally able to take that mask of expectation off and show the world who he really is. There are too many examples to name, too many masks that we try on, trying to fit in or trying to be something that we're not. And then we find out, geez, is this exhausting. It is so exhausting playing this dress-up, pretend game so much. And when we look around and maybe we begin to ask, isn't there more? Isn't there more? And the good news is that the answer is yes. The answer is absolutely yes. That's why I think it's so fantastic that All Saints' Day comes right on the heels of Halloween. Because today, we can look to the saints. And we can know that there is more. That we can be more. After Halloween, we can take off our masks and we can claim our true identity as God's children. The writer of 1 John declares that there is more. He declares this to his church. He writes to remind them that there is somebody that they really are. And they can be who they really are. They've been going through a tough time in the church. It seems that some have drifted away and some have been following the false teachings in the world, and they're struggling to know who it is that they are in this in-between time. After Jesus' death and resurrection and before he returns, and it's into this setting, this in-between time setting, that the writer offers them support. He reminds them of who they really are. By the amazing love of God, they have been made, he says, children of God. And then he reminds them, the reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him. It's like he's asking them, think about where your attention is. Where are you giving your attention? Is it constantly looking to the world for legitimation or security or for accolades? Are you trying to fit in? Or are you simply wanting to be like everyone else, following their regulations and their acceptability? Because if you do that, he says, you're going to miss what's happening right in front of you. And here's what happens. Here's what is happening. God is calling out. God are a child of God. That's who you were created to be, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, always. A child of God. You know, at least once a week, I miss David Eichley so much. At least once a week. It's usually on Wednesday. On Wednesday, I'll begin to think about him and long for his presence. And it's not because he used to come and take the garbage out every Wednesday. Megan and I do that now. But in honesty, it's when I am gathering up the garbage and taking the bins out to the street that I start to think about David. And I miss his quiet discipleship. I miss the way he so easily would care for other people without giving a thought to himself. The way he demonstrated the care of Christ to everyone. Everyone, those in his family, all the way down to those who were giving him his order in the drive-thru, at the restaurant, to people he didn't even know. It's because that's who he really was. And his care, because his identity was a child of God, his care was an outpouring of his very nature. His care for others, his generosity, his leadership, they were his response to being a child of God. Christians are not self-made creatures. Because we, first of all, are children of God, and we know that children do not beget children. They do not beget themselves. God is responsible for making us who we are. And our response to God's loving action in our lives is to become responsible agents of God's love and justice in the world. Because we are children of God, we are response-able. We are able to respond. We've been endowed with God's love and grace. And so we are able to offer that to others through our lives. I'll never forget the response that Doreen Dwyer had to my father's death. She came to Madison Christian Church. I don't know if every one of you knows this, but she came here to MCC because she had cared for several family members through their death and dying process. And when she came, she was struggling and she was angry and she was disappointed and she was sad and looking for a place where she could find a sense of new life again. Amid all the death that she had been so much a part of. She called me after my dad died during the Christmas season and said, I'd like to invite you to go with me to a Blue Christmas service. Sometimes it's called the longest night service. Some churches do this kind of service. It's a place where people who are struggling during the holidays can honestly name their grief and their sadness. You know, without trying to mask that grief with all the holly-jolly expectation of the season. And so I went with her, and she sat beside me, and she held my hand, and she led me up to the communion table and shared communion with me. What she did that night was she offered me a sense of hope for a future that I could not yet see in my life. And I think about the ways that Garnetta Bayless used her gift of music as an outpouring of God's love and grace for others. She didn't keep it to herself. She took it out as a ministry and visited nursing homes to bring life and hope to people through song. Some who were memory patients got a glimmer of vocabulary back, even if it was only as long as they could sing a song that was somehow embedded in their DNA. For some people, it was a gathering of the community activity of song that brought hope. But I think for all of those people who had a share in her gift of music, it brought hope because music can lift us. It can lift us out of our present circumstances and give us hope for a future that we cannot yet see. It's why we sing, "My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness." It's why we sing, "On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand." We don't know what tomorrow will hold. Maybe that's why we try on so many different masks. Maybe it's to guard ourselves against the unknown, the uncertain. We don't know what tomorrow will hold, but as children of God, we know who holds tomorrow. So even in uncertain times, when the world seems to be falling apart, when the ground feels like it is crumbling underneath your feet, you can stand on the solid rock of Christ, on the promises of your God, because we know the hope that the saints lived and passed on to us. We can live differently now. In this in-between time, we've been given power to live differently right now. Beloved, we are God's children now, is what the text says. What we will be has not yet been revealed. What we do know is this: when he is revealed, we will be like him, for we will see him as he is, and all who have this hope in him purify themselves, just as he is pure. This is our legacy of love. The question is, what will our response be? What will your response be? What will my response be? Through the love of God and in the power of Christ, we have each been made response-able. Let us respond with faith and hope, with joy, with love, with God's own justice, remembering the saints before us and placing our hope firmly in God's hand. Let us remove our masks and live our true identity now. We are children of God. Thanks be to God. Amen.